Right then, welcome back. Games X. Issue number 6, the 31st of May to the 6th of June 1991. Where does the time fly? Absolutely unbelievable. So, let's crack on in there. First thing we see is Aminos is coming. Yeah, Aminos, basically a shooter, as you can see there, made by Psygnosis. And a bloody good game, as far as I remember it. But how it plays today is, well, anyone's guess. SimCity CD-TV? Never really been tempted to get a CD-TV. Never say never. But, I don't know. It doesn't immediately spring out as something obvious to buy. 3D golf there. Looking remarkably 3D-esque. And then there, that's kind of amusing. Well, for me. Full Charge. Now, this is talking about a game which is Charge of the Light Brigade. And as it mentions at the top there, Rorke's Drift, made by Impressions. This one is also made by Impressions and looks exactly like Rorke's Drift. I mean, literally looks exactly like it. So I don't even know what they've changed in that. Graphically, it's just it's the same kind of game. They've got news on Barbarian 3 coming out. Now, maybe I should Google it just to check, but off the top of my head, I can't remember seeing Barbarian 2. And it says Super Barbarian as well, so I wonder if that ultimately led on to being a Super Nintendo game. Or at least, maybe it was in the pipeline. But it says there, you know, definitely coming out, so that's an interesting one. Now, remember there's 2 Barbarian games. There was the one with Marie Whittaker and Wolf from Gladiators on the front. And then there was the other one, which I believe was a side-scrolling version. Quite why they were both named Barbarian, it's a little bit confusing. Don't know why they did that. Savage Frontier, it doesn't sound familiar, but I guess if I see it, it may ring a bell. Robozone, I remember that one. Strike 2. Very interesting. Okay. We are the champions. Yeah, this is a little article here talking about how Games X, together with, who does it say there, ST Action, Amiga Action, those 3 got together and formed a Sunday League team. And they played against Ocean. Imagine that, the software publisher Ocean, that is, from obviously, you know, back in the day. That would have been amazing, because, I mean, I used to play Sunday League back then, and if I'd have come up against Ocean, you know, with that brilliant old-school logo on their chest, on the shirts, that, oh, man alive. I'd have just wanted to play for them. Budget brilliance. So, Mirrorsoft's Mirror Image there, which was the budget label, bringing out a couple of games, Xenon 2 and Speedball. For an amazing $9.99, as it says there. Incredible value for money. Well, it seems kind of pricey now, doesn't it, really? 10 quid, which is around about $15. Out in Japan is a device that will let you connect your Game Gear to a TV and plug in a Mega Drive controller for console play. Apparently the machine, no name yet, is pretty big, but it works. Now, what was that then? Connect your Game Gear to a TV. I mean, I'm not a Game Gear fan. I mean, I do like it. I've got a bit of nostalgia for it, but I'm not an expert on it at all. And I can't think what that device is, or was. I have to check that out. Brain Blasters there. Monkey Business. How amusing. Athletics. That's a very basic title. It's like the Master System games, isn't it? Like soccer, tennis, athletics. You know, no frills titles. Well, graphically it looks quite nice. And the Olympics, you know, haven't long finished, so, yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I'm still in an Olympic mood. I think I'm going to go in training for the next Olympics. 2016 Brazil, here I come. Souped up Commodore 64. Commodore has developed a machine to bridge the gap between the Commodore 64 and the Amiga, but plans to release it extremely vague. The new discovery, codenamed Standard Graphics, strange codename, offers a palette of 4,096 colours and uses a 6052 processor. Now that's a weird one because I can't remember off the top of my head a machine that came out by Commodore which bridged the gap between the Commodore 64 and the Amiga. The only thing I can think of off the top of my head was that cartridge they released. Was it the C64S? I think that's what it was. And if that's what they're talking about, then that certainly didn't bridge the gap between a Commodore 64 and Amiga. So I'm not certain on that one. Again, it could have been one of them things that I just missed out on. Or maybe it came out and... or maybe it didn't come out, I should say. Maybe it just never saw the light of day. And a game called Dreadnoughts. that based on submarines? So I guess similar to Silent Service. It's the only submarine game I can think of. Conflict Middle East? What's all this about? Oh, okay, just a strategy game coming out. Because, I mean, this was very topical, wasn't it? You know, this magazine, 1991, so the first Gulf War was in full swing. So it's nice to see some software developers here taking advantage on war, which I guess we always see. North and South. Oh, what an absolutely amazing game. Now, granted, that game doesn't really do it justice, but I urge anybody out there who's got an Amiga or an Atari ST, I mean, I think it was also out on the NES, probably PC, and 8-bit machines as well. A brilliant game, fun to play even today. And it combines, you know, strategy and arcade play, and yeah, a really, really entertaining game. Definitely give it a shot. It can actually go for a fair bit of money. The budget version's pretty cheap, but if you get the standard, you know, original big box version, you could potentially be looking around about 20-25 quid. Game called Legend there. Very similar to the likes of, what would you say, kind of, it's sort of like a populous powermonger, but with extra 3D kind of style graphics. Looks pretty good. Isometric, almost looks like a bit of a dungeon keeper game. You know, from Bullfrog, if anyone remembers that. What's Out and When? Now, the ones which immediately stick out to me, Switchblade, yeah, Switchblade 2 as well. So Switchblade on the original Commodore 64 on the 8-bit machine, and Switchblade 2 on the Amiga and the ST. A game which I really do want to get back. But every time I see it on eBay, just like everything else, it's really pricey. Ah, the Games X 20k software giveaway. As I've said before, those numbers are probably in there. I've got 20 grand in there somewhere. I wonder if all these years later they'd pay out. And then some nice old school logos there. Infogrames, Demonware, Virgin Games, Empire. When I think of Empire, I think of Gaza. Gaza and Gaza 2. Rubbish games, but just makes me think of that. Ah, Shadow Dancer. Now, I love the name of that. Did as a kid, and still do as an adult. Probably always will. It just sounds so cool. Shadow Dancer. Now, I don't know about the artwork. I mean, that's pretty pathetic. Look at that guy there. Yeah, that doesn't look good at all, but... check that out. But yeah, the name, Shadow Dancer. And that old logo there, US Gold, brilliant. Gallop Up Charts, number 1, Eye of the Beholder. Well, you can see the rest yourself. Monkey Island, number 5. Gods at number 9. Back to the Future 3. I remember seeing that at the cinema with a couple of friends in, well, it would have been 1990, I think, late 1990, give or take. And yeah, alright, Back to the Future 3 was probably the weakest, well, it was the weakest of the 3 movies. But I still quite like it. I liked it at the time, and I always will. But anyway, you might not like it. Ah, here we go. Toys for the Boys. So, yeah, basically this is following some girls around. Not randomly, like stalking them. We've got Alison. We've got Kathy. Nice outfit, Kathy. We've got Joan. And then last but not least, we've got Marie, who looks very much like a stereotypical receptionist, albeit from the 60s, really. And this article basically is all about their experiences in the workplace of what is a very, you know, male-dominant environment. So what's it like for them to work there? Is there any stereotypes? Is it, as it says there, socially acceptable? You know, how do all the guys feel? Do they get any stick for working there? How does it affect them? And all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty interesting article, but I'm not really certain that you'd want to read it in any great amount of depth. And that's strange. It's recommended 4 games there, 4 female faves. And as you can see, Viz? Really? I'm not quite sure. I don't know about that one. In fact, let's just focus on what they say. And if you want to read it, you can. So I'm not being sexist, so you can read what the girls want to say. So remember, this is Alison up there. And I'll just go through this slowly, and you can read it if you want. You may have to pause it, of course, but that's that. And then Kathy, pitching up for some words of wisdom. There she is. Now, I'm not reading this as I'm scrolling across. I'll read it later. I mean, I have read it before, obviously, when it came out. There's Joan. Joan Grady. Should we Facebook her? See if she's see if she's on there. Marie Brullington. Teaches computer studies, of course she does. So yeah, that's that. Like I say, if you were interested in that, then you would probably have to pause it to read it, but there you go. Special Reserve. Now, I've touched upon this many times. It's just basically a mail order company. Let's pick out some games here. Well, you can pick them out. Actually, BSS Jane Seymour. I used to really like that game. Think of it as a cross between like a Doom and Eye of the Beholder, I guess. It was kind of like an adventure game, corridor game, 3D corridor game in space. Throw in a bit of Aliens as well into the mix, and that's what you kind of had there. The Game Boy for 70 quid, which is around about, I don't know, $90. Atari Lynx for 100. And the Sega Mega Drive. Now, I've just recently picked up Genesis, as you possibly would have seen on a pickup vid. And that was, how much was it? $40, which is around about 25 quid. And it came with 14 games. Or you can buy this one for 150. Now, obviously, you know, that's a little bit unfair because that's how much it was at the time. But it just goes to show you how so many items and systems, games, how they all devalue over time. It's to be expected, isn't it? Bonanza Brothers. Now, this is the first review of the mag. It gets a pretty healthy 4 out of 5 for the Mega Drive. Yeah, now funnily enough, speaking of the Mega Drive, again, as we were doing just on the page before, I've got this, not on the Mega Drive or the Genesis, but on the PS3, but it's the, what is it called, the Ultimate Genesis Collection? Or Ultimate Mega Drive Collection, I guess, depending on where you are. And it's really hard. I thought it was anyway. Maybe you're watching this thinking it's really easy. But I stuck it on, you know, a couple of months back. You know, expecting to breeze through the game and get all the trophies, and it was really difficult. Addictive, you know, very challenging. Which is kind of what, you know, old games are. They're always a challenge. But yeah, I was really surprised at the difficulty level. There's a title screen there. So yeah, 4 out of 5. Next up, we've got one which probably isn't going to appeal to that many. Brigade Commander. It's for the Amiga. Gets a 4 out of 5, and as you can see, there's a title screen. But it's a very, very heavy strategy game. Doesn't offer a lot of graphics as such. Probably very stat-driven as well. If you like that kind of thing, great, but it's not really going to appeal to me. Next up is Extreme. As you can see, reviewed for the Commodore 64, but also out on the Spectrum and the Amstrad. There's a title screen. Yeah, it looks remarkably similar to a game which I'm struggling to remember. Am I thinking of Jetpack, maybe? Or, I don't know, there's another game which I'm pretty certain it looks like, unless I'm just, you know, my memory's going back to actually this game. But it looks remarkably like something else, which I can't nail. But it looks alright. Kung Fu on the Game Boy. Good luck making these screenshots out. I mean, this is one of the problems of the Game Boy, of course. When you're trying to take pictures, it didn't come out well, because obviously the screen. But still, 2 out of 5. Which actually, but still, I mean, 2 out of 5 is a rubbish review. Now, this is an interesting one, Arrow Flash. And I think it looks really good. Particularly that screenshot there, very atmospheric. You know, the red light, the orange, the lava that it looks like as well. Title screen. Only got a 3 out of 5 for the Mega Drive. But I reckon I'm going to have to investigate this bad boy. Because this shooter looks, like I say, pretty good. And that one, to me, I think looks really nice. As the magazine turns around, we've got Chaos in Andromeda. This one's for the Amiga. Also out on the CD-TV. Got a score of 3 out of 5, so pretty average, really. And I guess from looking at the screenshots, let's have a close-up of that there, if it wants to let me. Yeah, again, a strategic... I mean, it has elements of Gauntlet to it there, doesn't it, really? Yeah, not one I'm going to race to play, and the 3 out of 5 verdict isn't particularly enticing enough for me to want to buy it, but, you know, never say never, as I seem to say all the time. Lone Wolf. Out for a lot of systems, but again, reviewed for the Commodore 64. And this one actually looks quite entertaining. Graphics look quite nice. Animation there. I know it's not moving, but, you know, looking at the pixels, looks pretty good. 8-bit, remember, as well, so, for a Commodore 64, which, of course, was a fantastic system, I quite like the look of that. Looks pretty good. And did I show it got 3 out of 5? Well, I have now. So that's that. Next up, we've got a load of mini reviews. The first one up is Ghouls and Ghosts there on the Master System. A respectable 3 out of 5. Yeah, a classic game, isn't it, really? Still looks really nice, very atmospheric, music's fantastic, and holds up really well. Mercs, I used to love Mercs. Top-down shooter, that one for the ST, but obviously out for the Amiga, the 64, the Spectrum, the Amstrad, pretty much everything else, actually. 3 out of 5. Team Suzuki Trainer, or Team Suzuki Trainer Disc. Now, maybe this was an add-on. It looks quite nice, to be fair, doesn't it? The sun's pretty basic there. Just a round circle, just painted yellow, funnily enough. No frills, but it looks nice. 3 out of 5. Betrayal on the PC. Again, looks like a very strategic kind of game. Although, looking at those graphics there, more of a arcade adventure as well. 3 out of 5. And last but not least, an absolutely genuinely fantastic game. It's another top-down shooter, and it's Warzone. Again, this one's for the Atari ST, but it came out on the Amiga too. And that, trust me, is a brilliant game. Weapons are stupidly unrealistic, but it's only a game. 4 out of 5. Yeah, very much deserving of that. And I do actually have Warzone in the UK. I can't remember if I've got it for the Amiga or the ST, but I'm definitely going to get it sent over. And maybe in the future do some kind of gameplay on it. Because trust me, it's a really good game. So, Tipex here. As you can see, the latest cheats for the following games. Brat. Probotector. You might have these games, you may want to use a cheat mode on it. If you do, better pause it. Operation C. Slime World, remember that one for the links. Supercars 2, absolute classic. And Chuck Rock. Actually, just in case you want to see it. I highly doubt anyone wants to, but too late, you have now. And look at this, a Space Quest 4 Player's Guide. Now, the graphics on this, I mean, they're just amazing. You know, just think of your typical adventure, point and click. So immersive. Honestly, these kind of games, I don't know why more of this genre isn't made. Is it one to focus? Don't think it is it there? Ah, there we go. I mean, it just looks absolutely brilliant. And bearing in mind this magazine's from 1991, so this game would have been in development, what? I don't know, a good couple of years before? So to come out with graphics like this, now I do think this is the PC version, of course. But, you know, the Amiga wasn't too shabby. Or the ST, for that matter. I just think it looks really good. That looks a little bit ropey. But yeah, absolutely fantastic graphics. And I nearly won, actually, was it Space Quest or some kind of quest game? You know, this kind of graphic adventure on eBay the other day, but I completely forgot about the auction. And Sod's Law said it went for a really cheap price, where it usually fetches a good 20-25 quid. And it ended up going for like 5 or something really stupid. Anyway, Chuck Rock Player's Guide. Look how small the level is. But you didn't really appreciate it back then. Well, not appreciate. You didn't really. It didn't really seem like a short level. I guess because the AI was so difficult and it was such a challenge that the levels seem bigger than what they are. But look at that. I mean, if that's what it is, if that is the entire first level, that's ludicrous. And people complain these days about short levels and short games. I tell you what, you want to play some old stuff. Outland Software. Dream Machines, yeah, just a couple more mail order companies. Nothing special. The Gallup Charts. Viz, Hero Quest, Monkey Island. So that's what was going on with the Amiga. Supercars 2 there, number 9. Brilliant game, as we touched upon a second ago. For the ST, Hero Quest at number 1. Amstrad, Switchblade number 3, North and South. One of the first games I mentioned from this mag, the first couple of pages. Brilliant game. And a brilliant conversion on the Amstrad as well. Creatures for the Commodore 64, Last Ninja 3. Power Up, that was a compilation I think. I can't remember what was on it, but I'm thinking Altered Beast possibly was on that one. For the Spectrum, Dizzy Collection, obviously. Total Recall at number 5. I think they've just remade Total Recall, haven't they? Mad Dog McCree there at the arcades. God, the amount of pound coins I used to spend on that. I say I mean it was usually someone else's money, my mum and my dad. But yeah, brilliant game. Again, just like point and clicks, I don't know why they don't release more of these, you know, light gun games. They're such a laugh, if they're implemented well. I mean, Mad Dog McCree was kind of very much hit and miss when it come to hit detection. But no, I really liked it. In a cheesy way, of course. And then the budget label. Again, load of Dizzy games. Dragon Ninja. I think the full name of that Dragon Ninja was Dragon Ninja versus the Bad Dudes, wasn't it? Something like that. Or Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Treasure Island Dizzy. Etc. Look at their faces. I mean, that guy should be concentrating on the actual pinball rather than saying cheese for the camera. 0898. Yeah, touched upon this before, will again in the future many times, but you'd call up, you'd spend a fortune on the call, you wouldn't win. Doesn't matter what anyone says, you never won. Lot of nonsense. Dr. X, with his usual blend of sarcasm. Now, Sod's Law will dictate that the answers I show aren't sarcastic at all. But, there we go. I'll do it anyway. Robocop 2. And there we are. I think that's enough. If you really want to read it, you can always pause it. Shadow of the Beast. Brilliant game. Console Connections. Sagai. 77%. Never heard of it. Looks alright. Bit of a shoot 'em up. For the Mega Drive. Tailspin. Remember that. I had that as well. Spaced Out. What is that? Altered Space. Looks a little bit like Head Over Heels there. If anyone remembers that. And what the hell is that? Yoko Uno. What? Caesar's Palace. 51%. I mean, yeah, you know. What can you say about a game like that? You know what you're going to get. Not for everyone. Fatal Labyrinth. 56%. Another one for the Mega Drive. Chase HQ. Brilliant game. An amazing game on the Amstrad. Fantastic game on the Amiga and the ST, or I thought it was anyway. And also on the Spectrum. That was a good version too. Can't quite remember the Commodore 64. I would have played on it, but I'm not sure how that version fared. But I wouldn't mind seeing, you know, a modern day version of Chase HQ. Why not? Be really good. And then down here, there's a converter that lets you play Game Boy games on your NES. Now apparently it says there at the bottom there's already one available called the Wide Boy, but that costs from 300 to 500 quid. What the hell? Pricey. Look at that, the portable NES, codenamed Express. Did that even come out in the end? Not certain. Chinto's Revenge. So I think, I've not read the whole article, it's a software developer called Millennium, as you can see there, top left, and it's just talking about their latest projects. There's Robert Smith from The Cure, and Jackie Chan. That's racist. I'll be saying things like that. No, obviously it isn't Jackie Chan, and it isn't Robert Smith from The Cure. Just looks like him. With that same haircut that he's not changed for 30 odd years. Unbelievable. So yeah, like I say, I've not read this article, but looking at their little portfolio here, maybe it's just screenshots from one game, but it looks amazing. Now, whether it's a PC game, whether it's console-based, or whether it's just for the Amiga and the ST, I'm not entirely certain. Very Gauntlet-esque there, or there I should say really. And then there, very manga-driven. Looks absolutely fantastic. Street Talk. The greatest feature in the world of any magazine ever. So this one is from Surview Computers in Northampton, and if you're watching this thinking, Alex, where's Northampton? Well, there it is. Well, as if you didn't know that. There it is, pinpointed with complete accuracy. And if you live in Northampton, or did, or knew, or know of Serview Computers, I doubt it's still going, do you recognise this man? Lee Hunter, the shop manager. But what I like about that is, as you can see, I've been working here since it opened, which is about 18 months now. The owner is away on holiday, so I'm in charge for 2 weeks. So he's called himself the shop manager. Even though it's only for 2 weeks. I mean, fair play. Trevor Harris there, talking about how he's thinking of getting an Amiga. Actually, sorry, thinking of getting a PC, because he uses Amiga for business applications. Why would you do that? It's a bit weird. The other way around, isn't it? Games on the Amiga, business applications on a PC. There's Mark Jones, a freelance graphic designer, apparently, who's worked for Ocean in the past. We were talking about that before. And that stance, that stare, very Liam Gallagher-esque. We've got Nigel Newbury there. All these guys in their 20s so far. Then as soon as I say that, Gareth Morris pitches up at aged 14. Another Amiga owner. We've got Daniel James there. Has a Spectrum, an Amiga as well. Who's this one? Chris Wimpress, or Wimpress. Pop and dance music are my faves, especially Madonna. I think she's really sexy. I'm not sure if Madonna finds you sexy, Chris, but you never know. Maybe she does. Glenn McIntyre. His face looks familiar. Not that I recognise him, I don't come from Northampton or anywhere near it, but he just looks like a celebrity, like, I don't know. There's some celebrity in my mind who kind of looks like him. But let's move on, because I could be here all day trying to think of the name. Jamie Goodman, Master System owner. In fact, going back to Glenn McIntyre there, I just noticed that out of the corner of my eye. Well, I've got a, brackets, cough, and Amstrad. What's wrong with that? Amstrads are brilliant. And Matthew Blackmore there. No relation to Clayton Blackmore, former Man United player. I remember talking to Clayton Blackmore once and absolutely slagging off this new player that they'd bought called David Bellion. And I expected Clayton to turn around and go, well, actually, he's a really good player. And Clayton just turned around to me and went, yeah, he's rubbish. I don't know why we bought him. And then that night, I kid you not, that night, Clayton Blackmore, it's going to sound like I'm making it up now, I swear this is true, Clayton Blackmore was on MUTV criticising David Bellion. Don't ask why I was watching MUTV, it's a long story. Well, it's not really a long story. In a nutshell, basically I come from a family of Man United fans. And I guess I'm the black sheep of the family. I've got a bit of a soft spot for United. I shouldn't really be saying this. But, you know, growing up and being forced to watch their stuff, I find it quite nostalgic. I'm talking about like the mid to late 80s stuff. But yeah, let's move on. Let's move on. And then for some bizarre reason I made the stupid move in, you know, nailing my colours to the blue side. And regretted it ever since, really. Apart from last year, it was amazing. Sneak preview, Castles. This looks absolutely brilliant. My kind of game. In fact, we're going to mention North and South for the third time here, because it's very reminiscent of the graphics, and also the way them little people just lie down, as I guess most people do when they're dead. So that was a stupid analogy. But yeah, graphically it looks the same kind of thing. Now, I think this is just for the PC, although in saying that, did it come out for the Amiga as well? Possibly the ST. I think it may have done. But yeah, it looks a little bit ropey there because the camera from the magazine has zoomed in and you can see all the pixels, but no, I love that. I love this game. Very, very immersive. I could definitely see myself playing that one. Go global. Yeah, it's a shame this feature finished, you know. I think it was either this issue or the next one. Not quite certain. Trevor Simon. Robocop. What is that down there? Is that Meg Ryan? Mel Griffiths. And here's the things that were knocking around at the time. Anyone remember these? That kind of rings a bell. I didn't have one. Probably too old for all this at the time, but I do remember that. A video camera. Yeah, there was a period in time around about this early 90s era where every Christmas for 2 or 3 years, all I wanted to get was a video camera. And the reason I wanted to get it was not for any funny business. Before you accuse me of that, it was because I just really liked the idea of playing football and, you know, me and my mates and recording it, you know, and watching it in the future. And but I never did get one in the end. Bit pricey, of course. But it would have been a laugh. But ultimately, you know, those early 90s, I got the ST, I got the Super Nintendo, I got the GX4000. Less said about that, the better. Probably got a mountain bike chucked in there as well for another Christmas. So I wouldn't change it. Wouldn't change it for the world, I should say. But like I say, there was a period in time when I did want a video recorder. Kushkins. Yeah, I remember these things. A few girls at school had them, but a lot of bollocks, really, wasn't it? Rubbish. Jelly Tots. Lovely. I don't think they sell them here. Obviously, they've got equivalents. But I'm gonna have to import some of them, I think. Making me hungry. A load of gig tickets there. That was an exhibition that was going on at the V&A Museum. If you can recognise any bands that stick out. B-52s. Not really my bag. And then a load of board games, puzzle games, Rubik's games, all of them. Yeah, good for the brain. $4.99. Or ranging from $4.99 to $7.99. Even that's pretty cheap. So that's that. Then we've got the letters page. One from a cat. Very talented. No, I don't even know what that's about. Maybe you saw it there. And yeah, there we are. Just a load of letters. Should we focus in on some? If it wants to zoom in, doesn't really want to, does it? The title there, Strange Person. That could be a funny read. Yeah, it's not really zooming in. The text in the magazine looks very kind of 3D-esque. You know, it's like offset, as if there's been a mistake in the printing, so maybe that's not really showing up very well. Anyway, like I say, that's all pretty boring stuff. And then next week, we've got a feature. Is that a review, maybe? Oh, hints. Double hints page of Full Contact. Team 17's game. Now, this is featured in a recent magazine, a recent Games X mag that I did. Maybe 2 or 3 vids, or 2 or 3 Games X vids back. And it just looked absolutely amazing graphically. So it'll be interesting to see that in a little bit more detail. Anyway, Thrill Power, not Frill Power. 2000 AD. Little advert at the back. Anyway, so that's that. Games X. Issue number 6, like I say, from the 31st of May to the 6th of June, 1991. And it does seem like yesterday. It's incredible. See you later.